from Rocky Mountain Wet Shave. On my last video I talked about some of the things that you can get wet shaving related at local retailers. And I mentioned that my next video might be about my updated shaving routine or about cleaning some old razors. Well, you're in luck because I got a hold of a couple more old dirty razors and I'm going to show you what I do to clean these guys up. So let's have a look. First off, I've got 3 razors here. I've got these 2 single edge razors and this double edge razor here. I found on these that there are a couple different kinds of dirt. If you look close at this one's brass, and there's a lot of corrosion on it, and underneath here it looks like there's a lot of old caked on soap scum. You can see it in there. On this one here, a little bit of rust. You can see where the chrome plating has come off. It's showing some brass here. Another thing that I want to point out is when I got this razor, there was an old single edge blued blade in here. So when you're getting these old razors, watch out for that. If you're reaching into a box or a bag and they're in there, they might bite you. And that's the last thing you want, is a bite from one of these nasty, dirty old razors. Now, one of the other considerations we got to keep in mind is gold plating. And this particular razor here appears to have some gold plating, at least on the head. And I can't be totally sure. So we're going to handle all kinds of different grime and dirt and soap scum in different ways. But I start out the same way with all of them. So you're going to want to have a couple of things on hand when you're doing the cleaning process. The first thing that I start out with is an old toothbrush. Don't use your current toothbrush because you'll be getting it pretty dirty here. Along with that toothbrush, I use some hand soap here. Now, it says one thing, but I think it's actually just Dial antibacterial soap. I like to use the antibacterial because you just don't know what's on these old things. Also keep some wooden or plastic toothpicks. Any old kind will work. Some cotton swabs. And pipe cleaners. If you're a firearms guy, you'll probably find that you already have a lot of these things in your cleaning kit. On top of that, I also keep white vinegar in a glass jar. Some kind of non-abrasive polish. I actually use Flitz, and that was recommended by Razor Emporium, and a polishing cloth. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these razors up with the soap and take one last look at this guy right here. How dirty it is, even inside the handle there. You got this one here, and this one. Now the last 2, I don't think we'll clean up too much more with the soap and the toothbrush, but this one certainly will. So I'll be back with you in a couple minutes. Now, I went to town on these old razors with the soap and a toothbrush. And you'll notice by looking at it that a lot of the grime came off of this old Gem Junior. I removed the head from the handle there. Inside the handle it's looking a lot cleaner. The threading was also pretty dirty when I took the head off. Show you that again. It's cleaned up pretty well compared to what it was, but it's still got a long ways to go. And then the second one here is the old Ever Ready 1924. There's still some surface rust in there, and this is a chrome plate with brass underneath. So that rust is actually left behind by an old razor blade that was still inside of there. And I got something for that. And then this unknown razor, which I believe has some gold plating on it. still left on the underneath there and some on the handle. You can see it's totally come off the top cap, and I believe the top cap here might be something like Zemac, because the threading there is heavily corroded, although still usable. There's also some pitting in the safety bar, so that may also be Zemac. So that's what happened after I took the toothbrush and the hand soap to it, and it's cleaned up pretty nicely. Next, what I'm going to go ahead and do is take some white vinegar and pour it into the jar. And I'll do a little bit more than a 50-50 mix of water and vinegar. And vinegar has an acid property to it, so when you take that and you stick a rusty razor in there, I'll just do the head on this gem because the handle doesn't have any rust. When you stick these in here, it'll take some time, but it'll actually take the rust right off of it, and you'll get a lot nicer of a shine coming off of these, and then you can polish them up and they'll look pretty good. Now this one may have some gold plating on it, and I've seen some mixed reports on whether you can do gold plating into the vinegar or not. This razor didn't run me for too much, so I'm going to pop it in and we're going to find out. Now I'll probably let this sit in here until later tonight, so we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at that together, and I'll see you all later. Okay, so it's been several hours. Got our jar here where we had the vinegar and the shaving razors soaking, and I've emptied that out, and I've pulled each of the razors out, and I've given them a little bit of a scrub under the sink with a little bit of soap to make sure that all the vinegar's off. You don't want something that's acidic sticking on your razor longer than you intend for it. So, first off, I've got the Gem Junior, and I put this back together, and if you take a look at it, and I'll bring it real close here, you can see that there's brass and copper color on there. And the copper areas are where it was most heavily rusted, and so the brass plating has come off. On the inside you also see the same thing, and the copper sort of has a dull appearance to it. So the vinegar cleaned that up really nicely because it was pretty heavily tarnished before. The whole razor itself was very dull, and there was a lot of scum and different stuff stuck in there. So this came out pretty nicely. I'm happy with it. It wasn't ever in the kind of condition where you were going to expect it to be a perfect razor. It's now very clean, so I like that. This one is an unnamed razor. I don't know what it is, but we decided before that it was made out of something like a Zemac, and if you unscrew the top, you can see where it was corroded before, and the Zemac was kind of melting away. So that is still there. Well, I learned something from this experience because this is the first time that I've tried to clean a razor that was Zemac underneath. And what I learned was that the Zemac actually sort of puts a pollutant into the vinegar, and it left these darker deposits where it was shinier before. It kind of darkened up, and when I cleaned the other two razors, any of that darkness came right off, but on this one it didn't. So I'm wondering how that's going to look when we polish it up. So that's what I'm going to do next, and I'll probably do that sometime tomorrow, and I'll see you guys then. I'll let you know how the polishing goes. Okay, so I took a little bit of polish to these guys, and they really turned out nicely. If you go back in the video, or if you just remember off the top of your head, this one had a lot of dark stuff in between the grooves in there, and the top was pretty ugly looking. So the Flitz polish did a really great job on them, and I was able to get in there in some of the deeper parts. There it is, nice and close up. So that came out pretty nicely. This one here, if you remember from the last spot that I did, had a lot of darker spots on it where the copper was coming through. And I could even polish it up better than this if I had more time and wanted to put more effort into it. But it came out pretty good. So the last thing we've got here is the Ever Ready, and after that came out of the vinegar, most of the rust was gone and you could see where the brass was showing through the plating. And that's a good thing because the brass will polish up really nicely and look better than the rust. Of course, it's not a good thing that the plating is gone, but the razor will still shine up and look really good. So once I got it polished, you might be able to see some of the darker spots there where there had been rust, and now it's shined up brass and the nickel plating on that Ever Ready. But the polish did a really nice job. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that one. And of course, I can polish it more and get it even shinier than that, and I may do that later. So overall, I'm really happy with the way these razors cleaned up. One last time, I'll show you guys what I have that I use for the cleaning supplies. So for the cleaning supplies, I've got a lot of stuff here. You can see down at the bottom the dirty blue rag. That's my microfiber polishing cloth, which I use with the Flitz to get that final polish. But the first step is using the toothbrush there that you see in the jar with some antibacterial hand soap and cleaning and scrubbing those razors to get any of the soap scum and as much of the loose rust off as you can. Then after that, I take the white vinegar, dump it in the jar, and do probably a 60-40 mix, 60 being the vinegar and 40 being the water. And then I soak those in there for about 8 hours, a little more, a little less. Not too long though, because you don't want to damage the plating on any of those razors. And then after that, I'll move over to the polish, and I'll use the pipe cleaners there, some Q-tips and toothpicks to get some of the final stuff done right before I do the polish. Now any of those steps can be repeated just as you like them, and I've gone back and redone the scrubbing with the toothbrush even after polishing, and just tried any of the steps in any order that I want, but I always end up with a polish to get that final sparkle that you want on your razors. Occasionally I'll also take a Dremel with a nylon wheel and I'll get into some of the tougher to reach spots, and it doesn't end up being totally necessary. A lot of the stuff you can get with a pipe cleaner, but the Dremel is a nice tool to be able to use. So that's it for me. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you have luck out there finding razors at your local antique stores, flea markets, garage sales, or wherever you go. It's a lot of fun cleaning them up and really seeing them shine, because most people take a look at them out in the wild and say, oh, that's a hunk of junk, but you can really do a lot with it once you get it home. So good shaving and good luck to you, and thanks again for watching my video.